following Gomez and Gomez, and that would create confusion. So we need to pick specific colors: green for science, yellow for language arts, red for math, and just stick to that and make it work for whatever level you're in.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with the color.
Okay.
Green,
All right.
orange,
So
purple.
Pick whatever.
No, not orange. Purple.
we have
Oh,
language
goodness.
arts.
Yeah, but don't use purple because it's too dark, and then the ink is not enough.
Language arts.
I mean, we can have yellow, red.
Yellow won't show up. You can't write in yellow. You can't write in yellow.
No, but yellow paper, and then you write.
But you might just be writing with a marker.
Yeah. But see, we use like sit-up strips and write in marker on the sit-up strips, so that's not
we
gonna work.
write a lot with markers, so it'd be easier if we could go by colors that we could use markers, but we could use paper too.
Okay. Well, I can talk to Teresa about making sure that you all have the colored paper.
My rationale is that I write it on the color of the paper with a black marker or a blue
But
marker.
in lower elementary, it's a little bit
We
different.
use lots of sentence strips, Carolina.
I know, that's why I'm not understanding.
Yeah.
You understand why
Yeah.
Right,
I'm
that's
not
why.
understanding?
That's why the solution is simple. I'll talk to Teresa about making sure that you have the colored paper and that you have white too, so it can go either way.
So
But
you can see the marker on the white
Right.
just in case.
exactly.
Okay.
But yellow is still a little problem. So let's steer away from yellow so that they have the option of writing on white.
Orange, purple, and pink.
Green, orange, and just throw them up there.
No, we're having blue and red
Green.
for English and Spanish. It's already there. A lot of us have already made words in English and in Spanish.
Throw that out.
So,
Like she might have her trash can labeled in 2 languages.
okay, when they come, it's in red.
window
When
is
they go to
labeled.
Terry's, it's in blue. Okay. I'm not.
Okay.
So that's why
Sorry.
that's why she's
maybe
saying
I had too much
don't
too much,
use the
but-
red and blue because
Yeah,
those
Yeah,
are
there's plenty of other colors.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's pick some of the
That's
colors.
why I said
Okay.
Green for
orange.
science.
Green for science.
Okay, green.
Purple for social.
No. Social studies, orange.
Purple for social studies. I had a nomination here.
Sounds good.
Orange.
There's
For math.
pink. There's
Orange is good for whatever.
Pink is language.
orange math. Are you okay with orange math?
And pink for language.
And pink for language arts. Okay. Okay, so the communists are going to start to use color-coded academic word law. Okay. Incorporate content
really dark
area
Some of the kids think it looks like purple. And we have one that's pink.
into your academic. Okay, so are we okay with these?
And then we have orange. No orange. She said to make sure it's. I know we have green. I know we have the pink. We don't have that dark pink that I can use as purple.
Right, everyone gives you about that.
so I have pink for language arts.
Yeah.
Okay, my language arts was my science wasn't pink. My math was red.
Yeah.
We'll go to the hospital.
There you go.
We'll bring our little vocabulary paper.
Yes, I'll put into your glasses and I'll okay, have magnetic. Well, where are y'all planning on writing the objectives? On the chalkboard. Are they magnetic?
Yes.
I have a write mine in the bathroom. I am out of space. Mine's gonna be on the ceiling.
And then some of you were talking about using technology to display it, so we'll just provide it
Now,
and
Digitally
then you all
and-
adapt it. How about
if
that?
you come in and you don't see it, can you ask instead of assuming, oh, she didn't write it, but it's on the smart board, then you can ask.
Sure. Well, no, based on our discussion, I'm going to assume that it's one way or the other, some way. And so at my next walkthroughs, of course, I want to see a beginning of every lesson, right? Because you're going to review them every beginning of every lesson. So this time was a little hard because I had y'all had early release, y'all had all sorts of stuff going on. But, I did my best with that. But yes, well, don't worry. Don't worry, okay? All right, the picture icons, okay, good. Any other ideas for that? Okay.
So y'all will tell
tell me what you want it to look like. Right? So who's doing that already, or who's made
I
idea?
think
Who wants to fess up here? Okay.
Yeah, was it?
But we can talk about what you think.
You know,
it
because
should
one
look
thing
like.
that I'm thinking is doing like what Carolina said she does, where she has the sheet protectors on her chalkboard. However, if we do all 4 subject areas and then a language objective for each one, then that's 8 sheet protectors on there. So
Right.
just trying to think how to condense it,
I
maybe
like that.
maybe like for
I-
language arts, for
I
like
don't have
content.
I mean, if I'm doing math, the objective that is posted is just the math one.
Oh, you pull.
I pull them out.
Okay.
And I have a whole stack of color papers in my projector cart. So, for example, if it is an objective that I'm going to be teaching for a whole week, I'll just take it out or flip it over and then slip the other paper on top of it.
Okay.
So I have it there, and then we review it as we are starting the lesson.
I'm thinking though, let's say that it's a language arts subjective, maybe like right underneath it on the same paper, I would put the language
The language.
objective.
Yeah.
So that it's all on one sheet.
So
Well, I
maybe
have
just
it-
magnetic things that would
And
stick
just
on
put,
the
just put in the icon.
Right.
but
If you just had the eye and the eyeball for, no, not the eyeball,
The ear.
the ear, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So you hear with your ear, not your eye. If you just have the little ear and the pencil next to it, then that is a pictorial of your language objective. You don't have to have a separate one written out, right?
What I
Just
found
how you're gonna do the activity, you're gonna have an ear,
Like
you're gonna
now.
listen, and then you have to list what they're doing.
Include structured linguistic opportunities. We know from research that the absence of planned speaking practice, be it formal or informal, is detrimental to the development of academic English. And that goes both ways for English and the Spanish. So make sure that it is planned, structured opportunities. Things like turn and talk to a partner. Okay? Things like, okay, discuss with your elbow partners. Beyond the normal, raise your hand if you know. Right? You make sure it's structured opportunities, because if it's not structured, you don't know if they're truly talking to each other or not. Okay, so just make sure about that, and specifically essential in the Spanish counterparts of the team teaching, because I was talking to this table about how the language of our community is English. So the ones who are learning English have lots of opportunities to hear through TV, media, in the community, with neighborhood kids, and so forth. But the opposite is not true. So your native English speakers who are learning Spanish need a lot more structured linguistic opportunities, because they simply will not get it anywhere else unless the parents have some sort of connections or some sort of background in Spanish that would allow them to have that reinforcement. So keep that in mind. Make sure, again, reinforcing the same thing, plan meaningful activities that integrate reading, writing, listening, speaking. That's going to be taken care of, though, as you design your language objectives for your lessons. The second piece I want to remind you of is the consistency and separation of languages. Now, if you're in a team teach, that kind of is taken care of for you just by the structure of the way the program has been designed. But if you're in a self-contained situation, that becomes a little bit harder. So I brought copies of your program model just to make sure everybody does have a copy. And I know y'all are doing half day A and B for kinder. You're doing A/B rotation for first grade, and then for second grade, 2 to 3 day rotation. Third grade, weekly rotations. So just to make sure that you're being consistent with that, because if you neglect one or the other, then that language opportunity is being lost. And remember, the goal of the program is biliteracy and bilingualism. So as they come up through this team teaching approach and then they're transitioned into a self-contained classroom, we just need to make sure that the students are truly getting an equal amount of both English and Spanish to carry out that biliteracy that they started in K1 before they get to the self-contained. Now, will they be self-contained, same setup for next year too, Teresa?
Second grade will
Yes.
be dual. We'll have 2 teachers.
Okay, so
So
we're
it
gonna
moves
add
up with this year's first graders.
Okay, right. So we'll, but in a self-contained,
third, fourth, fifth.
Self-contained third, fourth,
third,
fifth
fourth, fifth. So we're gonna add an English
to the second grade.
to, an English team teacher to the
Right.
second grade. Okay. Okay, so,
But will
Just-
the rotation stay the same? Excuse me, it'll be 2
Are we gonna-
grade for second
Are we
grade.
gonna talk about the rotations later on for next year? What worked and what didn't work? And what's
Well,
best
we'll
for
do
them?
that as part of our program evaluation in May. And I guess I'll just say, we'll do that as part of our discussion in
Okay.
May.
just make sure, and again, just to reinforce what we just said, and remember, an effective program consists of instruction through 2 strictly separated languages. Okay, so the self-contained teachers have to be real adamant about that, which means no translation and no repeated lessons. So it is going to be a spiraling type instruction. Okay. Do we have questions about this beyond what's going to be discussed in the program evaluation? I mean, in terms of what's going to be carried out for the rest of this year. Okay. Do you all have questions for me in terms of what we've done today? Looking at the data, kind of getting a feel and analysis of what the data shows, what you all agreed upon in terms of your ideas for the objectives and the word walls. I will be back in walkthroughs in April to do the walkthroughs, and when I come back to do the walkthroughs, it'll be specifically looking for those components that you all have decided on. So what's on the orange poster, basically. Okay, so the first observation, I was looking at kind of lots of different areas to see kind of what would be a point of discussion, but this time it's specifically going to be the orange, what we wrote in orange. Okay? Okay, so if there are no questions for me, then the rest of the time is going to be for you, right, Teresa?
That's
Are we
right.
okay? Okay. So if you need to plan, if you need just some time to lesson plan with your partners or to flesh something out with a small group, things like that, this would be the time to do that. Yes.
I have a question. I did start my AB days, so if I do the 2-day, 3-day, since we just started with this structure, would I do 2 days English, 3 days Spanish, then the next week 2 days Spanish, 3 days English, or because of where my students are at right now, where several of them are really struggle in Spanish, even though that was their first language, it just wasn't academically necessarily their stronger language. Would it be okay for me to do 2 days in Spanish and 3 days in English for these last weeks? I know that next year it will be a lot easier because they're switching classrooms, but for me being self-contained, I wonder how that would look. And I'm trying to do the contract like the rest of the second grade team does, and I just need to know.
So my question is, because they're stronger in English and not as strong in Spanish, that you want to do 3 days in English?
Well, I guess since they're going into a tax grade, I just feel like some of them, they struggle in both. But if they're stronger in English, I feel like they're already far behind where they should be. And so I feel like I want to do the best with the time that I have with them to help them to be more successful. I mean, we're coming to summer, and in summer they usually don't do a lot of reading and whatnot. So I'm just trying to think of what's best for my class. I don't know if that's something we need to discuss on our
I
own.
think we can obviously discuss that now. That's not part of our program evaluation because you're talking about our transition. Do you have
Yeah, why don't
anything from
we-
research you want to say on that? Or
Why don't we Why don't I just have a conversation with you
Sure.
and
Yeah,
Teresa,
that's fine.
and then that way everyone else can
Can
kind
work.
of
Sure.
continue on with your lesson planning, or just brainstorming ideas, or just kind of time for you all that you usually don't get
Right.
otherwise. Okay?
Okay, so
Okay.
this is your time